Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Factor 11. You know, we often think of miracles as these soft, gentle things, but sometimes a miracle looks like a crime scene, and sometimes it looks like a bomb that refuses to go off. I started this channel because I believe we are not down here alone. We call this Factor 11 because of Hebrews 11, the evidence of things unseen. And my goal is to look at the police reports and medical files and the anomalies that suggest we have help. And today we're looking at the Cokeville miracle. This is Case F11-001. It takes place in a small town in Wyoming in 1986. A madman locked 154 children in a room with a massive gasoline bomb. The map says that the room should have been incinerated. The police report says everyone should have died. But none of the hostages died. Let's take a look at that file. In the history of FBI bomb forensics, there are three classifications for an explosion: high order, low order, and impossible. The device that David Young wheeled into the Cokeville Elementary School was not a threat. It was a mathematical certainty. It contained enough gasoline and aluminum powder to level the entire east wing of the building. He locked 154 children and adults in a room the size of a small apartment. He attached the trigger to his wrist, and at 1:30 p.m., he pulled it. The room was incinerated. The temperature exceeded 400 degrees, and the police report states that the blast should have killed everyone instantly. But when the smoke cleared, the body count was zero. The bomb squad said it was a physics anomaly. The children said it was the shining people who held hands around the shopping cart, around the fire. To understand the miracle, we have to understand the malice. David Young wasn't a random madman. He was a former town marshal with an IQ of 118. Mind you, he was only a marshal for I don't know, 6 weeks, 6 months, somewhere around there. But he approached this crime like an engineering project. Now, his weapon of choice was a gasoline bomb triggered by a damned man switch, a shoelace tied from the trigger to his wrist. If he moved, if he fell, or if he was shot, the switch would pull. At 1 p.m., he and his wife Doris entered Cokeville Elementary. They didn't take the school by force, they just walked in. And they herded 136 children and 18 adults into a single first grade classroom. The teachers were told it was an emergency assembly, and by the time they saw the guns, they were already trapped in the 30 by 30 foot box. The air quickly grew hot, and the smell of gasoline began to leak from the cart. For 2 hours, the temperature rose. The teachers tried to keep the children calm, playing movies and singing songs, but the air was toxic. The children were vomiting from the fumes, and the bomb was sitting in the center of the room, a ticking clock. And this is where the police report ends and the impossible begins. So around 3:30 p.m., while David Young was agitated and shouting, several children in different parts of the room began to act strangely. Now, they weren't crying anymore. They were staring at the corners of the room. Later, a 6-year-old named Nathan would tell his mother that he saw people enter the room, but they didn't use the door. He said they floated through the ceiling. Other children also reported hearing voices, not from the teachers, but whispers in their ears saying, "Go to the window, get ready, it's going to happen soon." At 3:45 p.m., David Young made his only mistake. He felt sick from the fumes. He untied the cord from his wrist and handed it to his wife, Doris. Seconds later, Doris jerked her hand, or maybe she flinched. Maybe she slipped, but the pin pulled. The bomb detonated. But it didn't behave like a bomb. Forensic analysis showed that the force of the blast, which should have expanded 360 degrees outward, inexplicably turned inward. It shot straight up, creating a vacuum effect. Now imagine a chimney, an invisible chimney, and the bomb went up instead of out. Now, simultaneously, the windows, which had been painted shut and locked, they blew open, but not from the blast pressure, but before the wave hit. Now, the children, obeying the whispers they heard moments ago, were already moving towards them. The bomb squad arrived expecting to recover bodies. The blast radius of the aluminum powder should have leveled the east wing. But when Rich Haskell, the lead bomb technician, examined the device, he found a statistical absurdity. First, the gasoline leaked instead of misting into the air, creating a fireball. It soaked the explosive powder, turning it into a white paste. It burned, but it didn't detonate. Second, and more chilling, 3 of the 5 blasting cap wires had been cut, severed, clean cut. The investigation revealed no mechanical reason for this. The wires were intact when Young entered the room. But in the chaos, amidst 154 hostages, someone or something severed the connection to the main charge. Investigators had their theories. Luck, physics, flawed manufacturing. Investigator Ron Hartley bought into all of those. He was a man of the badge, not of the cloth. But when his own son, Jason, started talking about the shining people, Ron dismissed it as trauma. So weeks later, as Ron's family was digging through old heirlooms, Jason pointed to a photo of the woman and said, "That's her, Dad. That's the lady who was there. She told me to go to the window." Ron froze. The woman in the photo was his grandmother. She died years before Jason was ever born. The bomb squad calls it a chimney effect. The history books call it the Cokeville miracle. But for the 154 hostages, 134 children that walked out of that fire, it was simply a promise kept. Now, not to say that nobody got hurt. Now, according to the New York Times, who also covered this story, they said that there were several children who were hurt with second-degree burns, and there was a 30-year-old music teacher that was shot in the shoulder, but there were no deaths. Now, the only deaths that occurred were 2, and that was of David and Doris. They were erased, not by the police department, but David erased Doris after she kind of blew herself up and she was in misery and everything. And then Dr. Kevorkian her, and then he went and left the room, and then Dr. Kevorkian himself. So it was only 2 deaths, and it was those of the perpetrators. Scripture tells us to guard our hearts. Science tells us that everything is frequency. Now, whether you call it faith or high vibration, the instruction is the same. Do not let the darkness of this world lower your spirit. I want to leave you with 3 questions tonight. 1, do you believe in the third man factor, that we have assigned protection? 2, how do you explain the wires being cut inside the burning bomb? And 3, has there been a moment in your life where a disaster certainly turned into a miracle? If this story gave you hope today, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel, like this video. It helps us get the message out to people who need to hear it. And comment below, because I want to hear your stories. I'm Segula, and keep the faith, and I'll see you in the next investigation.